Cloud Pod, where the forecast is always cloudy. We talk weekly about all things AWS, Google, and Azure. We are your hosts,
Justin,
Jonathan,
and Peter.
Episode 58, recorded on February 12th, 2020. The Cloud Pod is faster on Azure. AWS. Good evening, Jonathan. How's it going?
It's going well. I'm seriously looking forward to the weekend, though.
Oh yeah, it's been a long one for sure. Lots of mini hour meetings about different things, and so it's been a bit trying of a week. But I'm now off to beautiful Los Angeles for fun activities over the weekend, which is great.
I thought you sounded distant today.
A little distant, yeah. Well, you know who's really distant? Peter. And Peter is still, of course, on vacation somewhere in Asia. Hopefully not with coronavirus. But we have a fantastic guest for us tonight. Welcome, Ryan Lucas, back to the show.
Yay. Hey, Ryan.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Have you been staying up to date on what's going on here at the Cloud Pod? We had Ian McKay on last week, and we had a couple other friendly guests, but we always do miss you here.
Well, I can't say that I'm up to date on the Cloud Pod, which is sort of an embarrassing admission. But thanks to the newsletter, I actually am up to speed on topics, which I really appreciate. It's pretty awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. That's the new newsletter you can find on the website. We have some fantastic show note writers over at Podreacher who are helping us out and are doing a much better job than I ever did on the show notes before. So I do appreciate their support and help. We just added emojis to the newsletter like last week.
I saw that. That's cool.
Yeah, they sent me a note. They're like, "Hey, do you think you'd like emojis? I gave you 2 versions." And I'm like, "Oh, you had me at emoji.
Yeah.
Like, just like, come on, seriously. Like, it's not even a question."
Can you ask him to just send the summary over like before we record the show? Because then we can just use the notes. It'd be a whole lot easier.
Oh, yeah, it would definitely be a lot easier if we could just use their notes. That'd be great. All right. Well, it is, of course, another week in cloud, and that means there's quite a bit to get through. And the first one is an update to the Amazon RDS TLS certificates of doom. So if you've been frantically rushing out there to get your certificates up to date, Amazon has realized that forcing customers to do things is bad. And so they have now given you the at maximum time to fix this issue. So instead of pre-staging certificates starting on February 5th or 3rd, or whatever the date was, they will now not do that until the 5th of March when the certificate expires, and they will reboot your host for you to make sure that you are now in compliance. Before, if you had rebooted an RDS instance or you had manually changed it, it would take the new certificate authority, which may be problematic for your application. So basically, apparently, based on feedback from customers, they have backed off that forcing function and now allow you to wait until the bitter end to get those certificates updated.
Oh, and rightfully so too, because we have change processes for a reason, especially in production. And honestly, they got no business messing with my production RDS servers, even if it is going to prevent an outage in the future.
I mean, it's within the maintenance window, and it's this is an SSL cert that's expiring, and this really is last moment for things. And I do have to admit, I'm starting to in my daily life, I'm starting to look a little like the guy with the sandwich board going, the end is near with the bell. Because I just know that what's going to happen is that March 5th is going to come around and just bite everyone. Just because I just don't see the uproar, I don't see the moves, and I don't see the velocity of deployments that's really going to like update this stuff. And so it's sort of scary what's going to happen.
Time to start getting out these reminder grams out there. Like, hey, you only have X number of days left to get this done. Another sad news, or positive, depending on how you look at it. Arvind Krishna has apparently been named as the new CEO of IBM, replacing Ginny Rometty. And the Red Hat CEO, Jim Whitehurst, is now being named to president. And this all happened on the 30th of January. There will be a 6-month transmission period or so before Ginny sits down, and he will take over fully on the 6th of April. Apparently, Arvind Krishna was driving the acquisition of Red Hat, and there was rumor that the Red Hat CEO, Jim, would actually be made the CEO of the combined company. But apparently the board realized that no one could run IBM but an insider. Because that's a mess. The outgoing CEO said that by choosing Krishna and Whitehurst, the board chose a technically and business-savvy team to lead the company moving forward. And Ray Wang, founder and principal analyst at Constellation Research, said, "It's an outside model. To truly understand IBM, you have to come from the inside like Krishna. But to truly innovate, you need someone on the outside like Whitehurst. And that CEO-president model is helping." So, a little bit interesting. And that was a pretty big acquisition. This kind of caught me by surprise because I hadn't heard any rumors about this change going to be happening.
Yeah, but their financials have been horrendous for a long time. I'm not surprised. I'm surprised it hadn't happened sooner.
There was actually an interesting article here, IBM's Lost Decade by Charles Fitzgerald. He's apparently a blogger who's been following IBM for a long time. And he actually apparently suggested in 2013 that that IBM wouldn't make the cloud transition, which is pretty interesting and very prescient prediction there. He points out that Romity's reign included a 28% decline, or nearly $30 billion in reduced revenue, or $6.5 billion in net income, and a 95% billion in market capitalization drop. He does point out that it's not all her fault. She did inherit a terrible hand from Sam Palmisano, who was the person who turned it in from a technology company into a financial engineering company, and has outsourced a ton of jobs, over 200,000 to India. So her consulting mindset from global services and that financial engineering has really been a bad turn for IBM in the past. And so we'll see if these investments in Krishna and Whitehurst will pay off and move them in the right direction in the cloud space finally.
Financial engineering makes it sound like they're just really good at squeezing money out of customers, but the performance of the company doesn't actually make that seem true.
Yeah, it definitely feels like they were playing some snakes, smoke and mirrors on that, and no one really caught them on the street. But yeah, it's interesting how much IBM has really lost favor, and even the last 10 years, 5 years, there was that old saying, no one got fired for buying IBM. I think people do get fired for buying IBM now. So.
Yeah, I think my favorite thing about the whole article that he wrote, though, was that it was the lost decade, but it only happened in 6 years, 8 years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's
IBM's biggest mistake is no one knows what they do anymore. You ask around, are they a technology company? Or are they, a financial company? Like, no, they make Watson. That's what they do now. Like they just really don't have much of a purpose out there. And so it's sort of confusing, and it's not gonna drive enthusiasm to buy their products. That's for sure.
Well, I really don't know who uses Watson Solutions, right? It's really not a full product. It's only sort of a product, and I assume it is always a way to get into other professional services revenues with them.
Yeah, I always saw that as more of a publicity stunt.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Watson can beat you at chess, Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
So might my laptop and my iPhone and every other device because I'm not good at chess.
And my 6-year-old son.
Hopefully we'll keep an eye on IBM. They're going to be the biggest player in Gen 2 cloud, as we know we talked about in the past. So we'll see how they do. Well, it's my favorite time of the quarter. It's earnings season. So first up this week, Microsoft has reported a $36.9 billion in Q2 revenue. They reported that Azure was up 62%, the Microsoft Surface line was up 6%, and LinkedIn was up 24%, which is pretty impressive for LinkedIn, considering I don't know what they actually sell other than my data to everyone else. But overall, Azure was up 62%, which is up from 59% in Q1. So that is a slight rebound from what they consider to be slowing cloud growth in Q1. So they seem to be on the right path and doing quite well. But of course, they don't break out their revenues on the cloud, really. So it's really hard to say exactly what that is. But our next revenue earnings was from Google, and Google did break out their Google Cloud spend. Now, this is Google Cloud plus G Suite, but they removed other revenues like YouTube and much other stuff that used to be in this cloud line item. And the Google Cloud revenues apparently increased to $2.61 billion for the quarter, a 53% increase from the prior quarter a year ago. But overall, Google did not do so well, or Alphabet, as they're really called. Analysts were disappointed with results and had impacted them in their share price over the last few days now since this was announced. Pichai did comment that they have doubled the number of deals worth $50 million or more on GCP, and they are getting increasingly larger deals as they continue on the path. Cloud and other revenues totaled $7.88 billion, and far below analysts' $8.65 billion consensus prediction. So, yeah, again, analysts bad at their job, as we talk about every year.
Now, I know Microsoft have always been a forward-thinking company, but how are they in Q2 of 2020 already?
They are on their quarter is off.
Yeah, tell me about it.
It's a financial trick you do. So like a lot of retailers will actually make Q1 be their Q4, and that way they don't have the last quarter of the year be the best quarter of their financial fiscal year. And so there's all kinds of tricks that companies do that makes it really difficult to write crystal reports for. Coming from experience.
As long as it doesn't have to do with time zones, Chris reports is great.
Yes. Yeah, all the built-in quarter stuff doesn't work when you have off balance quarter setup.
Huh.
But one thing that I thought was interesting with this Google Alphabet earnings was that YouTube made $4.72 billion, while Google Cloud only made $2.61 billion. So just keep investing in that YouTube thing. It seems to be doing quite well, And how much? I mean, I don't know how much that costs to run that service, but man, that's a lot of money.
That
It
is
must be a lot of money because I swear to God, if they interrupt my videos with one more advertisement, like it is crazy. Like they must be monetizing the crap out of that service.
pay them the $15 a month to make the ads go away. It's the best thing. Best thing
That's
ever.
what I do.
Yeah.
That's what I
I'm
do.
so cheap. You have no idea. There's no way.
Like actually down to the point that I've had it so long now that when I go on my kid's iPad or something else that doesn't have it, and I see an ad, I don't know what that is. I'm like, what is this?
I mean, the other reason they're making a bunch of money is because they change the rules constantly, and they used to give people with basically one subscriber, if you had tens of thousands of views, you used to get ad revenue, but now you don't. You don't get ad revenue until you've got a bunch of subscribers. I'm not sure if it's 1,000 or more, but until you have this critical mass, you don't get anything. So they're still advertising on your videos, but you just don't get anything until you've got subscribers, which I think is really kind of a crappy way of organizing the platform.
Well, I'm sure the system's been gamed. I mean, there's so many. How many videos have I seen where it's like this hard marketing push for like and subscribe, and it's
Exactly,
basically half the content of the thing, and so like I'm sure the system's being completely gamed.
Yeah, and that's why a lot of videos they pad with, hey guys, I'm just here to tell you about this, because they got to pad it out to like 8 or 9 minutes, because if it's less than that, then you get a significantly lower share of the ad revenue. But I mean, Google bought YouTube for $1.6 billion 10 years ago. So that was a pretty good investment.
That was a great investment.
Yeah. You can't argue with that.
There was an interesting quote here in this article. Holger Mueller, analyst at Constellation Research, said, likely the cloud numbers look good enough for 2019 to be broken out, and certainly show good traction. But the cloud unit needs to grow faster than YouTube to show its relevance for Google overall, and then Google Cloud needs to catch up with the fellow stalwarts, AWS and Azure. Cloud is an economies of scale business that Google needs to scale up on. So, yeah, interesting. I would hope to see that enterprises are spending millions of dollars and making more money than YouTube for Google. That'd be nice.
Yeah, I mean, what they should do is migrate their own operations to their own cloud, and then just count that as revenue for the cloud. They'll blow everything else out of the water.
Yeah, there you go. And our final one is Amazon has crossed $1 trillion in market cap after they crushed the holiday quarter with $87.4 billion in revenue. Their revenue overall was up 21% from a year ago, and analysts said only $86.15 billion again because they're bad at their jobs. And total revenue for 2019 spiked 20% to $280.5 billion for all of 2019. They did talk about AWS spend. AWS was up 34% to $9.95 billion for the quarter. So if you compare that to Google, who just basically crossed $10 billion for the year, they're still only a quarter of the size of AWS in terms of revenue. So they have quite a bit of ways to go. Unfortunately, that is still a decline in the growth percentage of AWS, and so analysts were a little bit concerned about that. But the stock overall, based on those holiday sales, did quite well. And they did report that they now have almost 800,000 employees, which is really interesting.
Yeah, I'm really happy, especially with all the criticism they've had recently about how they pay. I mean, even just a few days ago, I saw news articles about how they're only paying $1 million in tax on the revenue. So I was really happy to see the public statement they made about their federal tax bill this year.
Yeah, I mean, they actually announced in a blog post they released their tax returns for 2019. Basically said that they paid federal taxes of about $1 billion, in addition to $2 billion in other types of federal taxes, as well as several $1 billion in local, state and local government taxes, and plus $9 billion in sales and duty taxes. So they are paying some taxes. One analyst did point out, though, that $1 billion on their revenue is only about 6%. When it's $14.5 billion in operating income, $1 billion is only that's 6%, which is pretty low compared to what I pay in taxes. I don't know what you guys, but we're an economy built on top of taxing individuals, not companies. So
I liked it, but the thing is, they sell things. The sales tax they collect on that, it must be on their sales must be phenomenal, and that's all revenue that the government wouldn't get if they didn't exist, right?
Well, I mean, you would assume that other online entities would exist, or you go to Best Buy and you buy the same stuff there, or Barnes and Noble or whatever, and you'd be paying sales tax through that process as well. So, I don't know. The question you have to ask is, does Amazon make it so that consumers buy more because it's easier?
Yes.
And I think that's probably a yes.
Yes, it is.
So,
From personal experience, if I don't have to put on pants to acquire a thing, I'm going to buy more things.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I did most of my holiday shopping on Amazon because I just hate going in the crowds to the shops and lining up for half an hour when I can just have it delivered to the door. That's fair enough. But I mean, I think their subscribe and save thing and even Amazon Pantry is really it's so easy to use and it's so easy to forget about some of those things. And I admit that I still have like baby shampoo from Johnson & Johnson en masse in my bathroom because I forgot to cancel that subscription and it arrived month after month. So at some point, people will realize.
I have a similar story to that because I there was this company that did furnace filters for your furnaces.
Yeah.
And, for some reason they felt that I should replace the furnace filter every quarter or every other month. And so I had like 6 of them and I was like, why do I this is good enough for like 6 years now. I don't need this many filters. I had to cancel that.
I have this image of just like going over to your house and opening the door and shoving filters out of the way.
Yeah, it was a good idea. Like I like the concept of it, but I'm like, at most you'll get me to change that filter every 6 months. Every other month is crazy town. Unless I had a super allergic son to something.
I just wait for the hardware store coupons to arrive. I'm like, hey, it's your birthday, save this much money. So like I just go and buy like a year's supply from like Ace Hardware or whatever.
Yeah, so I unfortunately have a sort of a non-standard size that they don't sell at Ace Hardware, and so I have to go to Home Depot or Lowe's, and that's all the way across town from where I live, and I don't want to drive
all the way across town. It's like 3 miles.
Hey, it's rough.
It takes forever. It's so hard.
That is a lot of.
I solve this.
That's a lot of stoplights.
You guys are fools. Like they sell things for lots of money that will just zap the particles right out of the air. It does not take a filter ever. It's fantastic. It makes a horrifying noise when it does it, but other than that, it's great.
Yeah.
Okay. It's basically a bug zapper for your furnace.
It's kind of like a bug zapper in your house all the time. Yeah.
All right. Well, I hope that I also have a large pile of Dollar Shave Club razors in my drawer too. So, I apparently have a problem, and it's okay.
Hey everyone, Jonathan here. I just wanted to take a minute to thank the cloud consulting gurus at Foghorn for helping make the Cloud Pod possible. These folks truly get it. Cloud consulting experts since 2008, they are premier tier partners with AWS, Google Cloud Platform Silver, and Microsoft Azure partners. From multi-cloud to containers to moving full production workloads to the cloud under the tightest compliance, Foghorn's team of full-stack cloud engineers have been there, done that, gotten the t-shirt, and are ready to share their experience with you. If you're in the market for some talent to supplement your team, visit www.fogops.io/thecloudpod. www.fogops.io/thecloudpod. Foghorn, the promise of cloud delivered.
Moving on to other Amazon things. So last week we actually talked about Amazon releasing multi-port support for their client VPN. We thought that was a little bit strange, considering they only added one port, which was the default port for OpenVPN, to their configuration. But apparently it might be related to this announcement, which is that they have released a new desktop client for the AWS client VPN. Previously, you had to use your own OpenVPN-based client, and there's literally hundreds of them out there, I think. And that would allow you to connect to AWS or your on-premise network. But now you can use the AWS native client on Windows or Mac, and it does support MFA, user password via Active Directory, and integration with other SAML-type providers. After you establish the client to establish a VPN connection, the desktop or laptop is effectively part of the configured VPC and can access resources as allowed by the authorization rules of the VPC. So that's nice if you wanted a native client, I guess.
I'm kind of disappointed that it wasn't an open source tool that they released that had the support for MFA, because it would have been great for the OpenVPN community to have had a client that supported two-factor authentication, because it's been missing for a long time. So I'm kind of disappointed about that, but this is kind of cool. I've already got the feature request in for a Linux client just to troll Amazon because they didn't do it at release time.
At this point, like with Linux desktops, you sort of have to be like, come on, guys. Like, I know that there's like me and like 12 other guys, literally dozens of us, with these who need this Linux thing.
It's dozens of you.
Dozens! But, like, don't ignore it.
There should be no reason.
Well, and there are use cases where you may want to have a client VPN on a Linux server to connect back to a VPC, and so I could see some use cases. I mean, it's not a common use case, but I could see some potential use cases that would require that Linux client.
I mean, on one side, I can argue, like, I get it. It doesn't make the MVP cut because, like, you look at your user base and you do math. But on the other hand, it's like, well, it's probably not that big of a deal to support it either. So, like, why not, why not just do that extra, like, a little bit and get that extra inclusivity?
Yeah. I think they're forgetting that. I mean, this is obviously marketed at people who want to connect to their VPC and do stuff manually. But I think there's more use cases than that for the client VPN, and eventually we'll see machines VPNing into VPCs remotely to call home or do whatever else. So I think once people start building solutions that use the client VPN, then Linux support will follow pretty soon.
I'm nodding my head like you guys can see that in podcast land. It's
it's great. It's great.
Yeah.
Really appreciate that.
Nodding your head like the dog kind of in the dashboard of the car kind of thing. Like, yep.
I was actually reading an article. I was reading an article earlier today on my flight, and they were talking about Amazon's considering making the Twitch streaming service basically something they would resell through AWS at some point. So you could actually have your own like Twitch. And I was like, well, we could have the CloudPod streaming network. We could all be on video. And I was like, no, I'm okay.
Yeah, think that through.
Yeah, I know. I worked it out. That's all rumor, so we didn't talk about that on the show. But when that gets announced, we'll talk about that for sure. Because that'd be kind of cool. Maybe in video at the time. We'll see.
I got to mark that. I've got to cut that bit out now. Cut the Twitch stuff.
No, I mean you can talk. You can leave in the show. Yeah. It was an article, and it was speculation. It wasn't real news. I have editorial standards, Jonathan.
I know you do. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just your guest hosts have a face for radio, so you got to be careful.
I have the great face for radio. I've got the voice for mimes as well, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I try not to be offended when all the sponsors say, "Hey, can we have Jonathan read the ad?"
Oh, really?
It's fine.
It's the accent. Can't go wrong with the accent.
I do need to re-record some of these things because I just because of the schedule, I usually end up recording these things at like 2:00 in the morning, and I'm tired and whatever else. And I sometimes listen back to them. And I'm like, wow, God, I sound so downbeat about this whole thing. I need to kind of get a bit more pumped up and re-record some of this stuff. So it's going to get better.
Actually, that reminds me that we should have talked about the new interview show that you should put in the beginning of that show. But we did release the first episode of our bonus episodes, our interview with Mike Kelly from Bineplane, to talk to us all about logging and monitoring and kind of what they're doing to help make that simpler. So check that out in the feed. After we get a few episodes in, we might split it into a separate RSS feed as well. But that's out there for people to listen to.
Excellent.
Well, moving on to Azure. I have Azure news, guys. Finally, after weeks. Partially because I found this other RSS feed that had like much less important announcements, which I then was open to lightning around. But there was a few stories that made the cut for the main show here. So the first one is this feature: Azure Backup now supports selective disk backup and restore using the Azure Virtual Machine Backup solution. So apparently, prior to this, Azure only supported the ability to back up all disks in a VM using the Virtual Machine Manager. But now with the new exclude disk functionality, you can get an option to back up one or few of many disks in your VM. This is a great solution for a situation where your critical data to be backed up is only on one disk, and you don't need to back up the others to reduce your costs. And you have a different backup solution as part of your VM data, and you only want your VM level backup for specific use cases. So this is a nice feature, I guess, that they probably should have had a while ago.
Yeah, this is kind of cool. In fact, Amazon just a few weeks ago released the whole VM image, the whole VM snapshot tool, which lets you capture the state of all the volumes at a single point in time, which is great. I remember, the database maintenance we did the other day, I ended up snapshotting a whole database server once it was powered down, and I should have actually unchecked some of the drives because it's just pointless, useless data. It was just it took forever. So this, I imagine, this is going to save a lot of people a lot of time sitting on maintenance calls and things late at night.
Yeah, most of my newer deployments, I'm shifting the data I care about to a specific place and either moving that around or shipping it off somewhere else. And so this makes a lot of sense because there's a ton of OS logs and OS stuff that you really don't care, like if it goes away. So this is fantastic.
Yeah.
Do either of you remember when GigaOM was a news website?
Yes,
Do you remember that?
I do.
Apparently now they're an independent research firm. And apparently they have released a new study basically indicating that SQL on Azure is faster and cheaper than AWS. The Azure goes on to say that there is now over 1 million on-premise SQL Server databases in the world that have moved to Azure, representing a massive shift in where customers are collecting, storing, and analyzing their data. And according to this article from GigaOM, you can get up to 3.4 times faster performance and up to 87% less expensive than using Amazon EC2. They used Azure UltraDisk for their throughput and got up to 80,000 IOPS per single disk, maxing out the virtual machine throughput limit and well exceeding the capability of PIOPS, according to this article. And Azure points out that the price performance is superior to AWS due to Azure Blob Cache, which provides free reads by their caching tier. Configuration system used in the test is a comparison of the standard E64S_V3, ooh, it just rolls off the tongue, for Azure, and an R4 16X large on Amazon EC2. They both had equivalent amounts of RAM, 432 for Azure and 488 for AWS, and they used SSD disk on both cases. But in the storage one, they use EBS provisioned IOPS disks and UltraDisk. And they tested Microsoft SQL Server 2017. So that is the test. And then in the case of the higher throughput disk, they used this 1.5 terabyte UltraDisk and 1.5 terabyte IO on the PIOPS side. So there you go. That's the story. What do you guys think?
So I'm going to call immediate bull
Okay.
on the PIOPS. It kind of seems like marketing.
Well, no, they're saying that Azure can go well beyond the maximum number of PIOPS that AWS supports. That's what they're implying.
I don't think so.
Well, either does AWS. They said not so fast. AWS, of course, says they're committed to providing objective, transparent, and replicable benchmarking data so you can make an informed decision on where to run your SQL Server. Amazon's own tests show that their performance is 1.75 times better and up to 40% cheaper than Azure. And they pointed out that the test that GigaOM uses a proprietary benchmark tool called the TCP-E, which uses the Microsoft's proprietary benchmarking capabilities. And they also pointed out there are numerous inaccurate comparisons due to the mismatches in the configuration. Azure, for example, used 4 striped disks for Azure, but did not apply any striping to AWS. The benchmark uses the older R4 instance, ignoring the newer AWS hardware, including the R5D, which includes a 3.6 terabytes of local NVMe storage and much faster CPUs. And the MS costing does not include the cost of Windows Server licenses or the software assurance required for the Azure Hybrid benefit. It does not take into account similar programs Amazon provides, like the MAP program. Amazon used a publicly available benchmark, the TPC-C HammerDB benchmark. And that's how they got to that 1.75 times better performance and 40% cheaper. And Amazon Web Services encourages you to look for replicable research and benchmark using your own workloads to help you verify which provider offers the best price, performance, and reliability. So take that, Azure.
That's sort of a mic drop right there.
Yeah, for sure. So all you vendors out there, if you are going to pay a third party to do a performance assessment on your product versus Amazon's product, make sure that it's actually true, because Amazon will call you out.
Yeah. Now all this makes me want to do is go test it, right? Like I can't trust either one of them really, and so it's all all I can do is like run my own workloads. And
At least Amazon's telling you, hey, go test it yourself. Here's the benchmark. It's open source. It's available. You can see how it works.
It does make me sort of believe their numbers a little bit more.
It does. It does feel like that. But again, do your own testing.
Do you think the reality is that actually the performance is going to be very comparable between the two, or do you really think that Amazon's testing was as impartial as they say?
It's probably closer to parity. I mean, like even like the IOPS thing and some of that. Like, yeah, you're right. I mean, there are some configurations here that I don't know how I would do, like this cache blob object thing. I mean, like there are things that Microsoft has that you can't get in Azure or in AWS. But yeah, I don't know. I suspect it's more apples to apples than they want to make it believe.
These performance tests are always so not real world scenarios that I always find it very funny. Like, yes, you tune all the knobs here. You specifically tune everything in this direction for this cloud provider versus this direction for this other cloud provider. You're going to get very different numbers. But in reality, for people doing applications and general application performance. They're not going to be setting all these random things, and they're just going to be like they just sort of want it to work. And I think the performance would be very comparable across the two.
You'd think so, right? I mean, the underlying hardware is Intel hardware, and the underlying software is Microsoft software, and I know there can't be that many differences between the two that would make such a significant difference in performance. But I guess somebody took some cues from Volkswagen in their benchmarking.
Well, I do hope that Google releases an article. Not so fast. AWS and Azure.
Yeah.
We're the
That's
fastest.
fast. Yeah.
That'd be even better. So I will keep an eye out for that. And if Google's out there, do that because that'd be hilarious.
I would love that.
That would be great.
Well, if you were using Microsoft Teams the other morning, you were not teaming it up because they were down for about 3 hours. Apparently, they had a SSL certificate expiring. So apparently, Amazon isn't the only one that has SSL certificates that expire. But apparently, this one was in the SSL authentication for Teams. The issue started around 6 a.m. Pacific time. That users weren't able to access Teams, and their updates. They said an hour later, the company had identified that the authentication certificate had expired. And then it took another hour for them to roll out a fix to their fleet of servers, and then users soon reported that things were much, much better. And there's another quote here from Holger Mueller over Constellation Research. It's never good when the cloud goes down, especially when it's caused by one of the most basic IT mechanisms, namely an expired SSL certificate. The problem for Microsoft is that this isn't the first time its cloud products have been hampered due to SSL issues. This will mean that questions around both its automation and control procedures should be a little bit more critical. Well, thanks for that, Holger. All I have to say is hug ops. As a guy who fights those things, it's harder than it looks, people.
Yeah. No, that sucks. It does suck when it's something so basic. It does suck when it's you because you just feel that much worse about it.
Mm-hmm.
But, these things do get, they proliferate, and it's hard to keep track of them all. It's a bummer.
I remember when they let their hotmail.com domain expire, and some very kind person renewed it for them.
I cannot believe they got that back.
that would have been hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, that's what happens when you take your system and move it to Windows.
Most large organizations run 6 or even more monitoring tools. Each of them uses a mixture of data collection techniques from technology providers, open source communities, or custom integrations, and maintaining dozens of integrations across these tools can be a significant investment. Blue Medora introduces BindPlane, not another monitoring platform, but the industry's first monitoring integration as a service. BindPlane can gather data from over 150 technology data sources spanning your entire organization. Remove or reduce your reliance on expensive monitoring and SIM solutions by sending log data to Google Stackdriver, New Relic, or Azure Monitor. Check out the extensive list of integrations, all provided at no additional cost. Learn more and sign up for a free trial by visiting bluemedora.com/cloudpod. The link's available in our show notes, and as a bonus for CloudPod listeners, Blue Medora are offering Google Compute Platform credits to help get you started. BindPlane. Seamlessly stream hybrid cloud and on-premise metric and log data.
Well, moving on to Google. Hey, so last April, Jonathan here on this very show predicted that Google would unify the messaging platforms at Google Next.
I did.
And we left Google Next disappointed and sad that we still had Hangouts and Hangouts Chat and Drive and Gmail. But apparently this article says that they are working on a unification. So this comes from The Information, and they claim that the Google is working on yet another messaging app. The GC team is doing it. It'll be a mobile app that brings the functionality of Gmail, Drive, Hangouts Chat, and Hangouts Meet, potentially as a competitor to Slack or Teams. And I guess this means that Killed by Google, the really great Twitter account out there, will get a lot of new products that are being killed. Either this new messaging system or a lot of old messaging systems. But this is probably most likely going to be announced at Google I/O in May, or maybe Google Next in April. Really depends which one gets here first, but definitely interesting to see what happens here if this Jonathan's long-awaited dream is coming true.
I got 2 things to say about this. Number one is I can't help that they just didn't deliver on time. Number 2 is that sounds really awfully like the Google Wave.
It does sound a little
that
bit like
they killed
Wave,
already.
Yeah.
I don't know that I want Gmail and Drive in my chat app.
I mean, I don't know.
I understand some of the play, unifying Hangouts and chat, and maybe Google Video. Like I sort of get, but yeah.
Messaging is messaging. It's either offline messaging or it's online messaging. And if you're not there to get a Slack message, then it's offline messaging, even though it's a real-time messaging platform. So it kind of makes sense that you aggregate. They're not saying that there's only one way that you send messages. What they're saying is they're going to aggregate all this stuff together in one place so that you can get online and offline messaging and online offline files in one place.
Well, that's what we assume they're saying. But we have no idea this is Google. I mean, Wave, which I haven't heard that name in a long time, was a fantastically weird product that no one knew what to do with.
I was so excited to sign up for that beta. And then I used it for 5 minutes. I'm like, this is shit.
Forming a podcast with a whole bunch of jaded bastards is going to be hard on the advertising. Yeah.
It might be. You never know.
Well, maybe we need to go for Prozac.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the sad part is that Google didn't really do much this last week. The news was light for Google. So
it seems like all the cloud providers are a little light. Like I'm fairly certain Amazon was behind the Super Bowl, wave, because they didn't do anything until right after all that happened. So they were
doing all that work for the NFL of all those player stats.
You know what? So I will tell you something. This is the first year I've been living in the US for 10 years at least. Just don't tell the immigration people. It's a little more than that, but whatever. and this is the first year I've sat down and watched the Super Bowl start to finish. I watched the whole game. I watched all the ads. I watched everything else, and I was really disappointed that the Amazon or the AWS next gen player stats thing didn't have a more prominent feature in the whole thing. It was kind of promised as being way better and all this machine learning.
Well, I mean, it was only announced was that 4 or 5 episodes back? It wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, but you would think that when they announced it, it was ready to go, right? But I only saw it a couple of times.
Maybe.
It was kind of lame.
Overall, the commercials this year at the Super Bowl were lame in general. It was probably the worst year of Super Bowl commercials I can remember in a long time.
I especially like the one that made 50 million people cry. The Google.
Oh, the Google one, yeah. I mean, it was a great ad. They definitely pulled the emotional heartstrings of you're old and you have Alzheimer's, and Google will help you remember. Good for that. I behaved the Chiefs won, so I was happy. All right.
Yeah.
Back off this rat hole.
Not petty. Yeah.
Oracle. Wait. How did Oracle get in the show notes? Oh, they got here because they announced 5 new regions.
Five new regions.
Apparently all up and running.
Are they up to 5 now?
Oh no, they have way more than that. I mean, it only takes a shoebox to make a data center.
A closet.
Yeah, apparently they are up to 21 regions now, and on track to expand to 36 by the end of the year. We gotta reach out to Max. We gotta talk to him. But the interesting about these 5 regions is they opened one of them in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, which is the first cloud provider to open in Saudi Arabia, which is a kind of a big deal for that country. The other regions that they opened were Melbourne, Osaka, Montreal, and Amsterdam. And Ian, who was here last week, was talking about BCP options in Australia. And hey, he's got a brand new one in Melbourne. So you're welcome, Ian. All right. Well, that is it for our main show topics. Let's move on to the lightning round.
You want me to MC the lightning round this week?
Yes, that'd be great.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
We never had a guest MC the lightning round before. That'd be a first.
We haven't. If I'd known, I would have sent Ryan all my funny things to say about all these all these things that I know he hasn't read yet. But I'm hoping he's going to pull through and win the point.
I am going to disappoint you.
All right, open Slack really quick. All right, we start the lightning round with new support for network security group flow logs, a feature of Azure Network Watcher.
But who watches the Watcher? Hey, I watched The Watchmen. It was good. Okay.
I've tried. So, you like the series or the movie?
The series, the new one.
I haven't seen the series. I tried.
It's good.
I've tried to watch the movie. I think I fall asleep after about 20 minutes every time.
The movie is pretty awful, especially if you read the comic books. But the TV series is set 30 years after the comic books, and it's the same universe, so nothing has changed other than it's 30 years in the future. It's great. You'll like it. Check it out.
After the tedious movie's finished, that's great. I may give that a go.
There you go.
Azure DevOps release and pipelines events are now available in the audit logs.
Oh, so now we can see that Ryan pushed 25 times to production and put that in the pipeline. Yeah,
So he broke the build.
yeah.
No, he broke the
many
build
times. It's in audit
he broke
logs.
the build.
Mhm.
He broke the build. Oh, maybe it worked. No, he broke the build.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least I don't have like Git events in the audit logs. Corrected typo. It's going to work this time, I promise.
Till it slowly degrades to swearing.
Yeah. Oh my god.
You should see my pull request or my commit messages as like, my first one's really nice and like very detailed. I'm like, yes, commit. Yeah. And then like it blows up in the build pipeline. I'm like, ugh. Yeah. Then I figure out what it is and I write like, okay, I fixed this file, blah blah blah. And then like the fifth time I'm like, I hope it just works. Like I don't care.
The editing I'm going to have to do in this episode is going to be
it's going to be rough. Sorry.
That's going to be amazing. Azure Site Recovery now supports customer managed keys.
No, you're still skipping one.
Yeah. You're screwing up Justin and I's OCD. Like Cassandra. We're just talking about Cassandra.
This one.
I have nothing to say about Cassandra, but you didn't talk about Cassandra.
Does it matter which order I do them in?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
My OCD can't handle that.
All right. John. Okay. This is harder than it looks. Seriously.
I know it's difficult.
This is why I'm going to start.
How do you feel? How do you think I feel going through all the other show topics and I have to summarize them? I have to keep you guys on track. All I'm asking you is read a headline.
I've got a mental block about this thing because they're missing a comma in the title. Right? It's Amazon. Amazon.
You got to think.
Go on, keep interrupting me. Go on, keep interrupting. Amazon Managed Cassandra Service now supports ordering clauses. No, that's terrible. I'm going to start that again.
You have to remember these are headlines.
They're
Azure Site Recovery now supports customer managed keys.
No, there needs to be ordering Santa Claus. yeah, exactly. That's all right. I already went there. It's missing a comma, I'll tell you. Amazon Managed Cassandra Service now supports ordering clauses in SQL queries and AWS CloudTrail logging. So it does not support ordering clauses in AWS CloudTrail logging. It's missing a comma. It's called the Oxford comma.
All right, well, send a tweet to Jeff Barr about it later.
I will.
Well, I had to say that after I read this article from Grafana Labs about their 23-hour outage on GCP due to GCP's persistent disk issue, and then that led into a Cassandra disaster. I don't ever want to manage Cassandra, so yes, thank you for this. I hope CQL queries are important and something I need. Also, why did they call them CQL and SQL? Like, was that
how am I supposed to pronounce that?
Yeah, like how do you tell them apart in conversation? Like that is a terrible choice.
Yeah, like start like okay, like yeah, like SQL's already taken. This isn't fair. So now I have to like come up with vowels to throw in there for no reason. Like this is Coco. I don't know. I don't know.
That's not good.
I'm not going with SQL.
It's Cassandra. What else should they call it? I don't know.
Cassandra query language. I don't know.
Let's abbreviate that too.
Do we really need a 3-letter term? Like we.
Well, I mean, if it was the New York Times style guide, it'd be C.Q.L. or dot if it's Cassandra query language.
They need to find a new TLA for that, 3-letter acronym. Yeah. Anyway, moving Azure Site Recovery now supports customer managed keys.
Okay. Isn't one of Azure's big plays is that you can DR to the Azure cloud really easily, and so wouldn't you need to have supported this to actually do any DR for any regulated company ever?
Azure Service Fabric 7.0, a second refresh release.
Okay, so this is where we really scrape the bottom of the barrel for Azure stuff, but I was annoyed and put this in the show notes because 7.0 is a release. A second refresh release should be 7.0.1.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why this is here. Sorry. Learn versioning, semantic versioning, please. Sweet Jesus, Microsoft.
We're going to start having a teaching class. This is getting ridiculous. People screwing this up. Like, I don't think it's that hard, but maybe we're not all in consensus. Like, I thought we were all in consensus, but maybe as an industry, we're all off. We just think we're right.
They've ridden that whole SP1, SP2 wave for way too long.
Well, they also had so they have SPs, and then they have cumulative updates. So the CUs, which they do on like SQL Server, and now they have refresh builds. Like, come on, Microsoft.
Amazon Redshift now supports per second billing.
I mean, it takes at least 5 minutes to spin up the Redshift cluster, so I guess I'm happy about this.
I can now spend more money than I should have on my query, but I will have much more granular insights into how much I've spent.
Nice.
Very true. Amazon Polly launches brand voice.
Jonathan, we're that much closer to retirement where we just have Polly take care of the podcast for us.
We could do that. Yeah.
Now we can make it your voice and my voice and Peter's voice and maybe Ryan's voice too. And we just write it out in words and make it Polly read it out to everybody. Who knows the difference?
I was actually really excited about the Adobe Voco thing they demoed years ago. It was like 3, 4, maybe even 5 years ago now. I don't know. It was a long time where they took samples of a comedian's voice and then basically typed new text in, new sentences, new everything, and it just spoke it in his voice. And I think somebody squashed that, whether it was like a government squash or whether it was something else, where they just decided it was just going to be bad for the world to be able to simulate anybody's voice. I don't know, but that product just disappeared off the face of the earth.
You lost me at Adobe. So
It was an amazing demo. Either it was completely faked, which is possible, or it was so good that somebody said, "Do not ever release this."
All right. Well, I'm going to go with it never worked.
Most likely. Because somebody else would have reproduced that by now, for sure. AWS Storage Gateway is now available on Linux KVM hypervisors.
So, wait, doesn't part of Amazon's cloud run on KVM? I mean, I know the Nitro stuff doesn't, but the older stuff, like C3s and C2s, were all KVM. And I was pretty sure Storage Gateway worked on those. So, what exactly is this?
Wasn't that Zen? I thought they always ran on Zen. Did they run on KVM?
I thought they did. I thought they pivoted from Zen to KVM, or I don't know. Who knows what they do?
I don't know.
Anyways,
I assume this is like you can run their storage gateway if you're running KVM virtualization in your own data
like
center.
how hard was it to just take a VMware or whatever they were probably giving you an OVF and you just convert the OVF to KVM? Like, why does that have to be native? I don't get it.
Yeah, I agree. Amazon Translate is now FedRAMP compliant.
Yes, for all your translators in the Middle East, it's helpful.
Well, it's gotta translate all the business, acronyms and the government acronyms. That's really what that is, I think.
It's for all your interrogation needs.
Yeah, that's where I was going.
Yep.
But Ryan's a little nicer.
I went a completely different way because apparently I'm the optimist, which is terrifying.
And finally, AWS RoboMaker supports pseudo access inside the robot and simulation applications at runtime.
Pseudo kill all humans.
Yeah. I mean, it was all fine until you gave the robot pseudo access, and then he deleted all the files. I actually tweeted out this when I saw this because I thought it was funny, and I actually used Bender with "Kill All the Humans" as my
did you?
as my photo on Twitter for that. Yeah, that was funny that you used that.
Yeah, we're in sync.
Well, now that we reached, are we scoring this week, Jonathan?
We are going to score this week because I think you deserve the point for who watches the watcher.
Well, wow, you didn't like it when I said it, so
I did secretly. It was just a slightly passive aggressive way of admitting defeat.
You're just mad that I'm not tying.
Admitting
you,
defeat.
yeah.
And so if I'd been Peter, I would have awarded the point to myself for the interrogation needs.
Yes, indeed.
Yes,
But I didn't.
that was pretty good.
Apparently Ryan is very active on Twitter as usual because he didn't see my Bender joke, but he's at 13 followers, and if we
13,
can get,
I know.
if we can get him to 15, we're gonna go low. If we can get him to 15 by the next time Ryan guest hosts, we'll consider that a success. So if you're out there on Twitter and you're looking for someone who doesn't tweet to follow, Ryan is your guy, and you should do that. And we'll see if we can get him up above 15.
Oh, this is starting to sound like a public radio, like begging for money kind of thing. Like, please.
I'm not going to give you it. I mean, okay. Here's the deal. If you follow Ryan, I will send, and you DM me that you followed him with a screenshot, I will send you a Cloudpad sticker. How's that? Now we're very NPR. I've done it.
And if you don't, we'll just continue pleading for help for the last 5 minutes of the podcast.
That's right. But hey, it's a time limited offer.
Oh, okay. I do need to limit this then. Until like April of 2020, and then I won't send stickers anymore. But you mean we know by the statistics that most of you tune out at the lightning round anyways, so it's fine. Which is why we're going to revamp the lightning round, but that's a future week. And that's it then. All right, guys. Well, Jonathan, anything you want to add or anything you're looking forward to in the next couple weeks?
I am looking forward to go to bed, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm doing that as well. I'm kind of looking forward to Peter coming back next week. I want to know if he has coronavirus, because that would be horrible. But I'm sure that it was a very interesting trip to Asia. I'd like to hear more about that.
Yeah, I think so.
He'll share with us next
Is
week.
he going to bring us back some Japanese whiskey, you think, or is he not?
He probably will. I mean, we had to go to him to get it, though, and he's in the city, so it's difficult.
Yeah. And he'll have the coronavirus, so.
Yeah, it's
like
a double
weird.
whammy.
Yeah, but it is whiskey, so maybe worth it.
Yeah. I'm actually curious about this coronavirus when it starts impacting supply chain for servers, because it's only a matter of time. These factories are being shut down like crazy right now. It's actually a pretty bad situation. So
I've definitely seen cases where it has impacted supply chain, not of servers specifically, but for other soft goods.
Well, yeah, we were trying to buy hoodies, and apparently we can't get hoodies because they come from a manufacturer in China, and that place is closed down. So, well, that's it for this week in cloud, then, I guess.
Ending on a high note as usual.
Oh yeah, positivity. Well, thank you, Ryan. We do appreciate it as always for you to come out here on the show. And for those of you who are going to get that sticker, what's the Twitter handle to follow for you?
RYRON01.
All right, we'll see it.
Yeah.
It's 15 by next time. We'll see if we get there.
See if we haven't.
And we'll make sure the Podreacher guys put it in the show notes too. And that'll be an extra bonus.
Great.
The pressure, Brian. You're going to feel the pressure.
There'll be no obligation to contribute back to this community at all.
Yeah. I mean, you can always join us on our
so
Slack team.
boring.
You can always join us on the Slack team too. I mean, we always enjoy that as well. And Ryan hangs out on our Slack team, so
I do enjoy hanging out in Slack.
you can comment on his handlebar mustache thing that's going on in his Twitter photo too, if you like.
Yeah, that is. Yeah.
It reminds me
Maybe
of
I
that.
have
There's
to
a
roll that
movie.
back out.
There's a movie with police officers in Canada, which I'm afraid of the name at this moment, which is sad. Super Troopers. Reminds me of Super Troopers. Like, you just need the hat, and you'd be totally Super Troopering it up.
No, it was inspired by Super Troopers. I mean, it was a Movember type scenario thing. That was my submission for pledging, was that. But yeah, I was definitely going for the Super Troopers vibe in that picture.
Yeah, I mean, it may be that people have tried to follow you, but they just can't get past that photo.
That's a fair criticism. It's a terrible photo to look at.
All right, guys. Well, you have a great week. Rest of your week. We will see you all next week. Well, Ryan, maybe see if Peter has a coronavirus. If he does, you're totally guest hosting this week.
You're stuck with me.
So we will. We'll catch you all next week on the Cloud Pod.
Goodbye.
Adios.
Sayonara.
And that is the Week in Cloud. We would like to thank our sponsor, Foghorn Consulting and Blue Medora. Check out our website, the home of the Cloud Pod, where you can join our newsletter, Slack team, send feedback, or ask questions at thecloudpod.net, or tweet us at #thecloudpod.